Let's go to Canberra now. Deputy Opposition Leader Sussan Lee joins us. Sussan, good to see you. You must be relieved that the RBA pressed hold yesterday.
Well, everyone was holding their breath yesterday, Pete, 3 million mortgage holders. But I was thinking of those who are on fixed mortgages rolling off this year onto variable rates, 800,000 of those. And when they hit those elevated rates, they're still going to feel that pain. And for someone on an average mortgage, it's $20,000 additional a year. So there is certainly a lack of a plan from this government to deal with rising costs and rising inflation.
OK, you've got your meeting today, the Liberal Party meeting in Canberra, Re the Voice. What are you going to do?
We're going to talk about the substantive issues we have with the proposal, and as Julie and Lisa set out in the press club, they are substantial, and I've had problems with this process all along. The Prime Minister says he wants to build consensus, but he's not approaching this in a way that actually builds that consensus across the country, particularly when it comes to the regional, the local voice, having everyone have their say, whatever corner of this country they're in, whatever Indigenous community they reside in. We also have problems with the wording, Pete, the executive of government advice that's in there, and sensible measures have been put forward by politicians that have just been brushed aside by this Prime Minister. So it is an important meeting, and that's why we're all in Canberra today. Doesn't feel like that long since we were last here, because it's vital that we get this right. Everyone wants to see better outcomes for Indigenous Australians. Let's not forget that that's what this is actually about. So improving those outcomes. There's no moral high ground on this. Are
you going to join the Nats and formally oppose the Voice as it stands?
I'm not going to preempt what we discuss in our party room. I'm not going to do that at all. This is an important meeting of the Liberal Party, and as Deputy Leader, I will listen, just as Peter will as Leader, and we will hear what I know will be contributions that make sense, that come from the different perspectives of our members and come from different parts of the country. And that's, as I said, something that we'll do later this morning.
OK, but you will at least push back on some of the amendments in there.
Well, it comes to those points that Julie and Lisa made at the press club and the importance of getting this right, because if you don't start with a local and regional voice, you have an overly administrative top-down structure, in my view. And I always see these things from the perspective of the communities themselves that I've lived in and worked amongst for many, many years as a Member of Parliament, as have many of our colleagues. So there isn't a moral high ground, Pete. There is no one who is better able to articulate that by way of simply pushing something through and demanding that Australians vote for it. You know, I'm always out and about around the country and people are asking me these questions that I can't answer because the Prime Minister won't answer them.
Well, on the Prime Minister, he gave his speech at Garma in July last year and welcomed input. Why are you only pushing back now? Why not give input then?
I think a bipartisan legislated consensus where everyone agrees before you go to something as significant as a referendum would have been a sensible approach to take, because that way you are bringing people with you. So fine, make the statement at Garma and commence the process. Unfortunately, in my view, that process has run well and truly off the rails from the point of view of a Prime Minister who should be bringing the country together and leading people with him.
But why not? Why not bring your opposition to it, though? Why not make suggestions much earlier than now?
We have been contributing to the process, Pete. We have gone to meetings. Peter, as leader, and Julian as our spokesperson, have gone to meetings. They have listened. They have asked questions. I mean, anyone who tuned into Question Time, and I appreciate not that many people sometimes do, would have heard the very sensible questions we asked. And they were about detail, and they were the sorts of things that Australians want to hear the answers to. And we had the dismissive responses from the Prime Minister, who actually was incredibly rude to Julie and Lisa, almost weaponising his previous contribution in terms of this debate and sort of waving his hand and dismissing everything that came his way across the dispatch box in the Parliament. That's not the way to build consensus. Right. So he has been talking out of both sides of his mouth on this issue.